Shabbat Parshat Terumah this year, the Parsha that has the instructions on building the Mishkan, the building of the tabernacle. That this Parsha this week also coincides with the theme of remembrance, Parshat Zachor. The Parsha of Zachor, the portion known as Zachor, is read every year on the Shabbat before Purim. In fact, some say there's a biblical commandment. There's actually a mitzvah d'oraita, a biblical commandment to read this Parsha. It's a kiyum, it's a fulfillment of a biblical obligation that we have, lizkor, to remember. To remember what, you may ask? To remember Amalek. Zachor asher asalach Amalek b'derech b'tzeitcha miMitzrayim asher karcha b'derech. That when we were vulnerable and weak, we were attacked. And so each year before we read about the story of Purim, another story telling us about a descendant from Amalek, from that arch enemy of the Jewish people, we are to remember, as it were, our vulnerability, our exposure to all manner of violence or potential violence and danger. That theme, of course, runs slightly together with the theme of building a Mishkan, a tabernacle, where the divine might reside. Without safety, God's presence can't inhere. In fact, safety is a sine qua non. It's a prerequisite, as it were, for our ability to go inside and to experience the holiness of the moment. Something very odd, though, in this week's reading about the tabernacle, and also by extension, I think, for what I'm taking away for this year's Parshat Zachor and Purim. The Torah tells us, when it comes to each and every detail of the Mishkan, which there are many, the Torah tells us when it comes to making the actual beams that stood erect, that were vertical beams, upon which the entire Mishkan, the entire tabernacle, that mobile sanctuary in the desert, the entire tabernacle, that space where God's presence would inhere, the mobile Sinai, as it were, Mount Sinai becomes actually expressed through this flexible thing called the Mishkan. The significance and the centrality of those beams, known in Hebrew as krashim. When the Torah comes to teach us what the krashim are to be made of, it adds one letter that for the rabbis becomes a significant doorway, that letter that is added superfluously into the direction and the commandment to build beams. That one letter becomes a door into a mythical world, a wonderful midrash that I'd like to share with you. The Torah says, V'asita hakrashim, right? Hakrashim. The Torah tells us in chapter 26, verse 15 in the book of Shemot, of Exodus. 26:15. V'asita et hakrashim lemishkan. You will make planks or beams for the Mishkan, krashim. Atzei shitim, they are to be made of acacia wood, omdim, standing acacia wood. V'asita et hakrashim. What are the beams? In Hebrew, the definite article, the letter hey, hakrashim, signifies something known, right? You know, the beams, the ones that you know about, the beams, not just make beams, the beams. What are the beams, as if known to the reader? Rashi, the great medieval exegete, quotes the Midrash Tanchuma, and other places. These beams are unique beams, in absolute contrast to other commentators who made a simple answer to what these beams are, and in that also answered where they got beams from. Where do you get acacia wood in the Sinai wilderness? Other commentators didn't quote a midrash, they didn't quote anything. They said, there was a forest, right? Dad Zekenim, Ibn Ezra, they said, there's a forest in Sinai somewhere. It's called the Shittim forest. That's where they got their acacia wood. Not Rashi and not the midrash. Let me read to you Rashi and the midrash. Rashi says, it should have said krashim. It should have said beams. Why the beams? Mahu ha-krashim, me'otan ha'omdin, yichadin lekach. This is speaking to the unique acacia wood, this unique wood that was already pre-existing and waiting for this moment. It was omdin. What does it mean that we had to have standing wood? Not that they would one day stand in the Mishkan, but they were standing and waiting for the moment for the Mishkan. Where does that come from? Says the Jewish mythic tradition, the folklore, Lekach Yaakov Avinu nata arazim b'Mitzrayim. Jacob, our father, we have a tradition, says the Midrash, an ancient folk tale, that Jacob, our patriarch, Jacob the father, came to Mitzrayim, came to the land of Egypt, and he sowed seeds, cedar seeds. When he died, he said, when I die, you have to take these cedar trees with you. God is in the future going to build a tabernacle, and you will need to have acacia wood. Be careful, make sure, he says, Jacob does, that you have them ready in your hands. Do you hear that, Midrash? Isn't that great? Right? Jacob, our patriarch, goes down to the land of constriction and suffering, into the land of slavery. And while he's busy in the land of slavery, in the land of constriction, he's already planting seeds for the future. And he tells his children, make sure that you come prepared. You'll be slaves for 210, 410 years, whatever it is, different traditions. But when you arrive in the desert, in the wilderness, I prepared something for you to bring with you. I knew that one day you would arrive. I knew that one day you would get there. I knew that one day you would make it through. I knew that one day you would be called upon and asked, do you have the ingredients necessary to build this beautiful tabernacle? Friends, it's been a year, almost to the week, that we have been living in Purim time, in an upside down world where every day we wear masks that make it difficult to see one another, in an upside down world where foolish and foolhardy narcissists threatened to destroy our world. People that at first were laughed at like Achashverosh and then became dangerous in their potency and impotency. Friends, we live in a year where danger has been around every corner, where all of the things that we came to expect as normal receded and a new normal replaced it. We've been living in so many ways globally with a recognition of constriction, of a sense of, will we make it out of here? When will we make it out of here? Now we have a sense of there being light at the end of the tunnel. And when I hear this teaching from the Midrash, I say to myself, have I been planting seeds this year for the moment when God will come and say, no, David, did you bring your acacia wood? Did you bring the things that have been planted for you? I'm aware so deeply of that obligation because I know that so much was planted for me that I harvested this year. So much of what enabled me to make it through this year were from the seeds of Jacob's and all others who came before me, Jew and non-Jew, family, non-family, so many citizens and so many humans who had the foresight and had the vision that brought us to this moment. In fact, we don't even have to think that they had the foresight. We know that even waking up in the morning, we are mutually interdependent on so many seeds that have been planted for us. We are the beneficiaries in our technology, in our homes, in so many ways, in ways that we would not have noted a year ago. We are already every single day aware and cognizant of our interdependence. We are in this together, and we know that. And along comes the Midrash, and it gives us an imperative. It gives us an imprimatur. It says, people like Jacob make sanctuaries possible. They plant seeds. They plant seeds that will be the building blocks of tabernacle after tabernacle, space after space, sacred community after sacred community, what makes it possible to arrive after unimaginable grief, unimaginable difficulty for so many. So I wonder, how am I in this a year in? How are you in it a year in In what ways are your actions and inactions serving to build a world in the future after we leave this place? Those are the things that on Shabbat of Zachor that I want to remember. Not altogether interested in remembering all the time how there are people always out to get us, but I'm interested in remembering at this time more than ever about the people who were there to support us, who helped us stand when we might have fallen. On this Shabbat Zachor, I'd like to think about all of the ways that this community helped each and every one of you, how other communities like this one, like Labshul and BJ and all the beautiful communities around the country became, as it were, the strength to allow us to plant seeds and imagine a future beyond this place. I'd like to lift up this year of all years, the memory of the dangers that we face when we don't come together and the success and triumph that we can expect if we do. To me, atzei shitim omdim, these trees made of prescient acacia wood, prepared long before we even imagined a tabernacle. They're omdim, they were there waiting. And Jacob said to his children, make sure sheyu mizumanim b'yedchem, that they're ready. So tonight, tomorrow, with each passing day, ask yourself, in what way am I planting a seed in this moment? In what way are seeds being planted for me? In what way we can invite one another to plant those seeds that will be, as it were, the building blocks of the holy and sacred world that we will build. Shiyum mizumanim b'yedchem, that they're ready to be brought forward. I bless all of you this week as we make our turn towards Purim, to keep some of these intentions and kavanot at the forefront of your consciousness as we mark this 1 year anniversary of sorts.